grief, loss, death. Three words that carry a heaviness that can be difficult to handle. Each of us, in our own unique way, embarks on a journey, an exploration of feelings and emotions, and we all do it in our own ways. It's a path that may seem chaotic, but beneath the surface, a pattern exists. A pattern that, once understood, can shed light on our most profound human experiences. In this video, we will go over the 5 stages of grief. Imagine losing something or someone precious. The initial reaction, more often than not, is denial. This is the mind's first step to shield itself from the emotional shockwave that the loss sends rippling through our reality. Denial, in the context of grief, is not merely a refusal to accept a fact or reality. It is a defense mechanism, a sort of psychological armor that we unconsciously don to buffer the full impact of the loss. It's our mind's attempt to regulate the flood of sorrow, to keep us from drowning in despair all at once. Now, it's important to understand that denial doesn't always manifest as a flat-out rejection of the loss. It might be subtle, it might be nuanced. You might find yourself thinking, "This can't be happening," or "There must be some mistake." You may even continue to behave as if the loss hasn't occurred, maintaining routines or habits associated with what or who was lost. This stage of grief is like a night watchman, holding back the harsh light of day until our eyes adjust. It gives us that necessary breather, that momentary reprieve to gather our strength before we face the painful reality. It's nature's way of doling out the grief in doses we can handle, ensuring our emotional survival. But why does denial happen? Well, it's because our brains are wired to resist abrupt changes, especially those that trigger intense emotional responses. Denial is the brain's way of buying time, allowing us to process the change gradually. Remember, denial is not a sign of weakness or irrationality. It's a normal, integral part of the grieving process. It's the body's natural response to a wound, forming a protective layer over the raw, tender pain until we are ready to deal with it. So if you find yourself or someone else in the throes of denial following a loss, be patient. This is just the first stage of a journey, a step towards healing that will eventually lead to acceptance and recovery. Denial, as we see, acts as a smokescreen, helping us to pace our feelings of grief. It's a beacon in the storm, guiding us towards the path of acceptance one step at a time. As the masking effects of denial begin to wear, reality and its pain re-emerge. We are not ready. The intense emotion is deflected from our vulnerable core, redirected and expressed as anger. As we peel back the layers of grief, we find ourselves at the second stage, the stage of anger. Anger is raw, it's powerful, and it's often misunderstood. It's the body's response to feeling threatened or wronged. In the context of grief, it's the emotional equivalent of a primal roar, a defiant stand against the unfairness of loss. But here's the thing about anger. It's not a one-size-fits-all emotion. It can take many forms and can be directed at different targets. You may find yourself feeling angry at the person you've lost for leaving you. Or you might feel anger towards the world for its perceived cruelty. You could even feel anger at yourself, questioning if there was anything more you could have done. But this anger, as fiery and destructive as it may feel, serves a crucial purpose. It's like a flare, illuminating the deeper, more complex emotions that lie beneath the surface of our grief. It's a bridge, leading us from the shallow waters of denial into the deeper, more turbulent currents of our loss. While it may feel uncomfortable, even scary, it's important to remember that anger is a natural response to loss. It's not something to be judged or suppressed. Rather, it's an emotion to be acknowledged, understood, and ultimately worked through. It's also worth noting that anger isn't a linear stage. It doesn't follow a strict timeline, and it doesn't always present itself in an obvious way. It can come and go, ebb and flow, often appearing when you least expect it. But through it all, remember this: your anger is valid. Your anger is part of your healing journey. And most importantly, your anger is temporary. It's a stepping stone, not the final destination. Anger is necessary. It is a level of intensity that can be cathartic, helping us to let go of our deeply held emotions. It's a beacon in the darkness, guiding us towards a place of understanding and acceptance. When the anger subsides, we may find ourselves trying to negotiate our way out of the pain. Welcome to the stage of bargaining. In this third stage of grief, we're often consumed by a flurry of if only and what if questions. It's a desperate attempt to regain control, to find a way out of the heartache. It's a time when we're hoping against hope that we can somehow undo or avoid the cause of our grief. We may find ourselves making promises or deals with a higher power, asking for a second chance or a different outcome. It's as if we're trying to rewrite the past or negotiate the future, looking for any possible way to alleviate the pain. Yet, it's important to remember that even though bargaining can feel overwhelming, it's a crucial part of the grieving process. It allows us to express our fear, our regret, our guilt. Bargaining may feel like a last-ditch effort to hold on to what we've lost, but it's a natural part of our journey towards acceptance. As the negotiation fails, a deep sense of loss pervades. We withdraw, we isolate. This is depression settling in. Depression, the fourth stage of grief, is perhaps the most universally recognized. It's a dark cloud that looms, a heavy weight that presses down, making the world seem gray and lifeless. It's as if the vitality, the color, the essence of life has been drained away, leaving us in a world of shadows. Depression is not a sign of mental weakness, nor a condition that can be simply wished away. It's a natural response to a great loss. It's our mind's way of dealing with overwhelming emotions, of processing the reality that what we've lost is gone forever. It's a period of reflection, of mourning, and of unexpressed sadness. In the throes of depression, we may find ourselves withdrawing from life, isolating from others, even from those who are closest to us. It's not that we want to be alone, but rather the world outside seems too bright, too loud, too full of life that we're not yet ready to rejoin. Yet it's important to remember that depression, like all stages of grief, is not a linear process. We may move in and out of this stage, some days feeling the weight of our loss more acutely than others. We may wake up one day feeling a bit lighter, only to be plunged back into the depths the next. And that's okay. It's all part of the grieving process. Depression forces us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities. It makes us question our purpose, our worth, and our place in the world. It's a harsh yet necessary teacher, pushing us to dig deep within ourselves, to face our pain head-on, and to find strength in our vulnerability. Remember, it's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to cry. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to grieve. Depression may feel like the end of the line, but it's a crucial part of processing our loss. Eventually, we come to a stage where we start to accept the reality of our loss. This stage is acceptance. A vital part of our journey through grief, acceptance is the fifth and final stage. But let's debunk a common misconception right away. Acceptance doesn't mean we're okay with the loss. It's not about saying, "I'm fine with this." It's not about forgetting or moving on. It's about recognizing the reality of the situation and learning to live with it. Acceptance is about acknowledging that the world has changed, that something significant has been lost, and that life is different now. It's a recognition that the person or thing we're grieving is not coming back, and that we must adapt to a world without them. It's a slow, gradual process, and it comes in its own time. In this stage, we start to see glimpses of hope, of a future that, while different, can still hold joy and meaning. We start to realize that we can survive, that we can keep going, even with the pain of our loss. We might start to reconnect with others, to re-engage with activities we enjoy, to build a new normal for ourselves. It's important to note that acceptance doesn't mean the pain of loss disappears. The hurt might lessen, become more bearable, but it never fully vanishes. Acceptance is not a finish line that, once crossed, means we're done with grief. Rather, it's a point of understanding that our grief is a part of us, a part of our story, and something we'll carry with us moving forward. At the end of the day, acceptance is about being able to say, "I miss them and I always will, but I can still live. I can still find happiness. I can carry them with me, in my heart, in my memories, and still move forward." Acceptance isn't about being okay with the loss, but rather acknowledging it and finding a way to live with it. It's about learning to hold both the pain of loss and the promise of life in our hearts at the same time. It's about finding a balance between remembering and moving forward, between honoring our loss and embracing our life. Each stage of grief has its place and purpose. They are stepping stones on the path of healing, each one crucial in its own right. denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. They may not follow a strict order, but they all contribute to our journey towards acceptance. They are our heart's natural response to loss, a testament to our capacity for emotion, for love. So let's embrace them, for they are part of our shared human experience. Remember, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to feel. It's all part of being human.